Fans of the Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40,000, thank you very much for joining me for a second video today. This is the 8th edition newsflash for Warhammer 40,000 on the 10th of May, and this is an update. Those cheeky people at Games Workshop have slipped another update in today, and it popped up 30 minutes after I'd finished my first video for the day, and I was like, oh, you hard taskmasters, aren't you? But we have standards here at Leakycheese channel, and as it was such an important topic, I thought I wanted to get another video out quickly on this because it's really exciting. And as I was saying about standards, here we have all of our high quality artisan design features. We've got our new style eagle corners, we've got our stolen paper fancy background, we've got colourful bullet points. It's all there. Hope you enjoy this extra update because it's on a very interesting topic, and it is about weapons, and it's part 2, and I've put circa 1987 here. And that's because as I speculated a few weeks back about 8th edition, I thought they were going to go back 1st edition, and a lot of the stuff they're doing, well, some people, while people will correctly observe it's very Age of Sigmar, it also is very 1st edition, so it's quite funny really. Yeah, so I'm talking about the article that's dated the 10th of May on the Warhammer Community website. Link in the description as per usual. So what did this update tell us? Well, it's all very interesting stuff to do with shooting. Firstly, twin link weapons are gone. They are now twin weapons or double mounts. So let's take the example that they gave in the article of the Land Raider. So in 7th edition, the Land Raider is armed with a twin linked heavy bolter and 2 twin linked las cannons mounted in the sponsons. That weapon's loadout now changes to 2 twin las cannons, so that's 4 shots, and a twin heavy bolter, which makes 6 shots. So yeah, what does this mean? Well, fewer rolls to make for attacks. You get your dice ready at one go, you roll them, you know if you've hit, then you go to damage. You don't need to re-roll misses. So that's one change. I think that's possibly a good thing, particularly when you're dealing with large numbers of weapons. It's better to roll the lot once rather than to have to throw again and again and again and again. It has an interesting effect on vehicle firepower. So I've just very simply worked out some probabilities here, looking at the Godhammer las cannons, as they like to call them on the Land Raider. In 7th edition, its 2 twin-linked las cannons will score an average of 1.77 reoccurring hits every time they fire. The accuracy is slightly over 80%. And the range of hits, well, your minimum is 0, your maximum number of hits is 2. In 8th edition, you're going to score an average of 2.6 reoccurring hits per turn, so 2 2/3. So you're getting nearly an extra las cannon hit on average per turn. However, and this is a significant bit, or one of the significant bits, your range of hits goes from 0 all the way up to 4. So your average has moved, but your maximum potential has moved even further. It's a big change that, and if you think about 40k, there are a whole plethora of twin-linked weapons which are going to become double weapons or twin weapons now. If you're the owner of a fully tooled up Baneblade, you're going to have so much fun with all your heavy bolters. It'll be brilliant. So what is the next piece of news in this bulletin? Well, the second regards combi weapons. In the move that is similar to what Forge World did with the Adrastus Bolt Colliver for the Sagittarian Guard, combi weapons will never run out. Got a combi plasma, you can always shoot it as a bolter or as a plasma gun, symbol. Or, as is now going to be possible, you can double tap, so you can fire bolter and plasma in the same turn. If you use this double fire option, all attacks are taken at a -1 to hit. So by taking a hit on your accuracy, you can increase your volume of fire considerably. There's a whole host of the Adeptus Astartes that this is going to really help. Terminators of a whole variety. It's going to up the firepower of 30k units once they put this onto the 30k lists. Things like Sternguard veterans, huge buff to their firepower as well. And this fits with the general step forward in infantry firepower that 8th is showing us with these news updates. Because if you have a squad of Combi Plas Sternguard veterans, well, you can plasma all the time you want, as long as you don't melt yourself. Well, that is assuming they have a gets hot rule, they might ditch it. And if you've got combi melters, well, you can melt away all day. Fantastic. Big buff to elite infantry firepower there. And for us heresy players, we can wonder what a combi bolters going to be like? Is that going to be like two rapid fire bolters? So at short range, you're pumping out like 4 shots. Oh, that's excellent. Finally, is a standard Terminator Marine going to actually get the sort of firepower that matches its defensive capabilities? So yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And it also reduces a bit of bookkeeping as well. So you don't have to remember when you fired your weapons. Although this wasn't a specific item on the list, we were given the profile for a Combi melter gun. From that, I was interested looking at the stats on the melter gun. So the melter gun has the following stats. It's range 12, it's an assault 1 weapon, it has strength 8, its armor save modifier is -4. So looks like that's going to be a very high armor penetration weapon. So a normal Marine won't get a save against that. A Terminator will only get a 6 as far as we know, if the Terminator has a 2+ save. And it does D6 damage. Now, currently, and we've all got very used to having the melter rule, which means under half range you got a bonus dice on your armor penetration roll. Well, that's now gone, and there's nothing like the melter rule. And instead, what you do is if you're at less than half range, you roll 2 dice for your damage, and you discard the lowest result. So it increases the average damage. It doesn't increase the amount of damage you can do, it just increases the average. But the key thing is, the melter rule was gone, and there was just a description of how it works. This fits with what I was hoping to start seeing, insofar that we're going to see a ditching of loads of the special rules that are currently in 7th edition, because I think, as I said a while back, there's a huge number of special rules in 40k, and they can be quite they can be tricky to remember. You need a lot of bookkeeping to consult on, and when you get 2 special rules interacting, it can be a real mess trying to deduce what the priority is. So I'm hoping that this little indicator here shows us that we're going to see more of these special rules ditched, which will help speed up gameplay no end. The final part of the article was talking about explosive weapons, and I read that as being weapons that currently have some sort of blast. So not a template weapon, but a blast weapon. Blasts are going, or blast templates are going, and what we'll get instead is a random number of shots. The example given was for a battle cannon mounted on a Leakycheese tank, and that will now have a range of 72, a strength of 8, an armor save modifier of -2, a damage of D3, but it counts as a heavy D6 weapon. So every time you fire it, you get D6 shots at the enemy unit. This is quite a big shift, and abandons a mechanic that 40k has had all the way back to 1987 of using blast templates. What do I think about this? Interesting. This is an interesting one. It will certainly make gameplay quicker. You won't need to faff around with doing weapon deviation anymore. You will simply roll and get, I don't know, right, I threw a 4, right, I've got 4 battle cannon shots at your Land Raider now, and you throw them. You don't have to do a scatter dice roll, and then if you do scatter, work out where it lands. One problem with the scatter dice system is correctly interpreting the direction of the arrow. Even with the best will in the world, it's not always easy to correctly do that. And without the best will in the world, then it can get it can get a little bit unpleasant in terms of saying, oh, well, no, actually, it was that way. No, actually, it was that way. No, it was that way. No, it was that way. Then you've got the whole thing of working out how many models are underneath the blast template. So getting rid of the blast templates will certainly make gameplay quicker. It will have an interesting effect on how weapons work. Blast weapons will now potentially have really potent hitting power against point target. So when I mean a point target, single target. So if we go back to our Leman Russ, if that Leman Russ shoots a Land Raider, if they throw 6, they get 6 shots on that Land Raider. So if you hit well, you do a lot of damage. And mechanics wise, I quite like that, because what it says is it's kind of giving you that you've got a fixed strength, but you randomize the number of hits, which is could be reflecting how good a hit you get on the vehicle, and as to whether or not you've got any angle on the armor strike, as to whether or not you get a part deflection. So yeah, I quite like that. And it will make the whole determining hits against infantry so much more simple. It'll be very interesting to see how the really big guns in the 40k arsenal fare under this system. So, I talk about this from the point of view of the Horus Heresy, and there's some enormous template weapons, things like the main cannon on the Typhon siege tank, and all of the weapons on the Titans. What will a Bellicosa pattern volcano cannon do now in terms of shot numbers? What are weapons that are like the carapace mounted multi-launchers? which currently use the Clover template, and the barrage weapons. How are they going to work? We don't know that yet, but so this is interesting. I'm very intrigued about this, and this can shift the meta, because if we're going purely for random shots, then it now doesn't matter how much you bunch up your troops. So there's no tactical advantage to be gained by spreading out. So you can concentrate troops, which means you can concentrate firepower even more than before, which will, coupled with the other things we've seen, is going to increase damage output, I believe. I don't know what will happen with the really big weapons, because one of the good things with a blast template system is enormous explosion weapons could hit several units at a time, and particularly if they're scattered, it just reflected the fact it had such a big explosion that someone was going to get hit. That's an interesting change, that, compared to what we're used to. So, but certainly much quicker to play, and from a point of view of a war game mechanic, well, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I've played lots of, what we're playing at the moment, we've been playing Force on Force, which is a modern combat game that uses dice to reflect the effect of blast weapons. If you've ever played Tomorrow's War, which is kind of like a non-generic futuristic rule set, that does the same sort of thing. Stargrunt, that's another one. So there's lots of, and even Bolt Action, there's lots of game systems that use a randomized dice effect to represent the effect of blast weapons. So it's not a bad thing to introduce, it's just going to be interesting to see how all of these big explosion weapons that we've become used to in the game are handled. So yes, that's quite a lot said on a fairly short update, but I think there's some really important concepts in here in terms of what it tells us. Oh yes, the article rounds out by saying tomorrow we are going to talk about data sheets. Very interesting. So hopefully we might get some unit stats and some more ideas about these special rules as well. So what do you think about Weapons Part 2? Some quite radical changes. Put your thoughts in the comments. Be interested to discuss those with you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.